Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Crucius, and today I'll be bringing you a 1v1 match on the map Zelnaga Caverns. In the top right, we have a red Terran Shoodyo versus our pink Zerg in the bottom left, AltPig. Now this map is being played on the new Zelnaga Caverns. Basically what this means is that there are no more backdoor rocks, so the Zerg, the Terrans can't really break down your backdoor rocks and just swarm straight into your main. Basically what this means is that most of the aggression is going to have to be head-on. It's going to have to go through the middle. Basically what this means is that there are going to be more choke points. Terran siege tanks are going to be a lot more powerful. Zerg are able to burrow banelings, take out any large bio armies that are pushing across the map. So basically what this did was that it actually kind of balances things up a bit more, because what you found in Zelnaga Caverns was most people would just be sending units through the back door, breaking that down, and for most cases, most people didn't have any detection back there, because the map is kind of relatively large, especially inside your base. So most people in the lower leagues, I guess, tend to forget that kind of detection at the back door. Now we do see both players sending out their scouting workers. Shoodyo doesn't really see all that much inside AltPig's base, so we could probably assume that AltPig is going for 14 hatch, and that's going to be followed up by a spawning pool. Now we do see Shoodyo trying to evade these two drones. Hero SCV trying to take on two drones by itself, but I guess it finally did give up at the end, just let itself die. And as I said, AltPig does throw down his hatch at 14 supply before placing his spawning pool down. Now we do see AltPig's drone still inside Shoodyo's base, just trying to harass the worker building the barracks a little bit. Now AltPig's just going to continue to run around. At this point he should probably throw down an extractor. Basically what this is going to allow him to do is just keep that drone alive. It's going to be able to get the SCV off its back, and if a marine does pop out, he'll be able to somewhat keep that drone alive, because first marine has to take down the extractor. AltPig can cancel the extractor and just throw up another extractor when he needs to. Now we do see AltPig throw down his spawning pool. That was probably around 13 or 14 supply. We also do see him getting his extractor up somewhere. Guess not. We do see Shoodyo getting his second supply depot, and AltPig basically is doing what I said before. He's cancelling the extractor just before it finishes, and basically just throwing up another one, keeping that drone alive, and recuperating some of that minerals that he spent to get the extractor in the first place. Now we do see AltPig didn't actually cancel the extractor the second time around, because basically with two marines trying to take down the extractor, it's not really worth splitting your attention to it, because the drone is probably going to get sniped off pretty easily, especially when the third marine comes out. Shoodyo getting his factory up, that's probably going to be switching with the reactor at the front. Basically what this means is Shoodyo is probably going to go for a couple early Hellions. Mainly that's just going to be to get some early map control, try to harass a bit, especially in the mineral lines. We do see AltPig getting his Roach Warden up. AltPig moving out with two Zerglings, probably just going to be poking around Shoodyo's base a little bit. Basically he's just going to be poking around, because most of the time the Terran would keep most of their army near the front, so if you just poke it with a couple of Zerglings, you can basically tell off the firing animations what units they kind of have. So if you see flames, you'll know that it's Hellions. If it's just standard assault rifle fire, you know there's just basically Marines. But if Shoodyo does choose to go with Hellions, which he does, he has two Hellions moving out across the base at the moment, he's just going to stop by the Zelnaga tower, take out the Zergling that was placed there. If Shoodyo does choose to get aggressive at the moment, that might spell a slight bit of problems for the Zerg. We do see that AltPig does have 3 roaches out on the field at the moment, as well as 1 Zergling. But at the moment, he does have another 2 more Hellions pushing out, so if AltPig gets caught off guard, Shoodyo should be able to do a lot of damage to the mineral line, but the roaches are at the front and just waiting. He managed to push back the first wave of Hellions, but if Shoodyo does choose to go around the left side, when the roaches are out of position, he should be able to get into the main, cause a lot of economical damage and basically cripple the Zerg's economy right there and then. Now, we do have 23 SCVs for Shoodyo versus 25 drones for AltPig. The Zerg is going to be slightly better in the economy, especially with 2 bases up compared to the Terran's 1 base. And we do see AltPig pushing out with a couple of roaches now. He's going to try to snipe off a couple of Hellions, probably just poke around the walling if he can. We do see Shoodyo actually bring up his supply depot just in time before the roaches reach the top of the ramp. Although if AltPig was pushing out with Zerglings instead of roaches, that probably would have been a bit too slow. Shoodyo probably should have raised that supply depot the moment his Hellions pushed in. We do see Shoodyo going for a couple of siege tanks. He also does have siege mode on the way as well as stim. We do see AltPig going for Baneling's Nest as well as Zergling speed. The Baneling is going to be really good against this walling, especially with the fact that the walling is only comprised of 2 supply depots and 1 barracks. Supply depot only has around 400 health, so you'd only need a couple of Banelings to take that out, and just follow that up with a couple of Zerglings or roaches, and you can have basically free reign around the Terran's base. Now we do see AltPig continue to go for a couple more roaches, Shoodyo going for a couple more tanks, a couple more marines, and basically we're just going to see both players trying to return to slightly more tech-based route. We're going to see a couple of upgrades probably getting thrown down. We do see Shoodyo trying to actually contain the Zerg a bit. Sieging up 1 siege tank, and probably going to be sieging up the second one as well. We do see AltPig going for a flank, pushing out the front with roaches and Zerglings out the front, but the Hellions are able to take care of the Zerglings really easily. And AltPig managed to snipe off both siege tanks. That was really vital, because even though he managed to get a flank in, the Zerglings did take a couple of hits before they actually reached the siege tanks, so that really softened them up. So they'd only need around 1 or 2 hits from the Hellions to actually take him out. We do see Shoodyo actually trying to throw up a bunker. That was probably slightly a bit late, and probably a bit of miss micro from Shoodyo. Now we do see AltPig trying to go for a counter attack, trying to push basically any units that are being rallied down by Shoodyo back into their base. We do see a constant stream of roaches just flooding out from AltPig's base. We do see a couple of Banelings following up as well. But we do see AltPig actually choosing to fall back to his base. That's probably a better idea at the moment, because if Shoodyo does manage to get a couple Hellion run-bys, it actually taken quite a while to be able to run back. Well, even with the creep up basically halfway across the map, it will take a slight bit of time for the roaches to get back, especially with... Yep, AltPig doesn't have the movement speed of the roaches, so being able to push out with the roaches and actually retreat back as quickly as possible isn't really all that efficient with the roaches at the moment. Now we do see AltPig going for his gold expansion, and we also see the roaches taking down the destructible rock as well. So we're probably going to see AltPig trying to go for this expansion. And Shoodyo still is sitting on 1 base, so this might spell a bit of problems. We do see AltPig going for the burrow and Baneling speed, but we do see Shoodyo going for the combat shield. Basically this is going to give Marines a bit more life. It's going to be able to let them survive a little longer against the Banelings. Now we do see Shoodyo looking to get a bit offensive, but Shoodyo doesn't have his siege tank sieged up. This might be really problematic for him. We do see the Banelings run in, taking out all the Marines, softening up the siege tanks, and we do see Shoodyo's offensive getting absolutely crushed. It's really vital for the Terrans to actually have their siege tanks sieged up, especially against the Zerg, because if they manage to get your roaches up against your siege tanks and they're not sieged up, if they manage to run a couple of Banelings in, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Because siege tanks are basically the counter against Banelings. You need to be able to take out all the Banelings before they reach your army. If you don't have your siege tanks sieged up, that's not going to happen at all. Now we do see AltPig looking to be a bit aggressive here. He is getting his Carapace upgrade as well as Roach speed. And we do see him continue to spread his creep out. That's really useful, especially against a relatively mobile army of the Terran, since it's mainly bio-based and mixed in with a couple of siege tanks. It's also going to help the Banelings get a couple more hits in before they actually get killed off by any siege tanks. We do see AltPig burrowing 2 Banelings here. Basically what he can do with this is, if Shoodyo chooses to move out with a bunch of Marines, he can just detonate it on the spot, take out the Marines, and basically cripple any of the Terran's offensive push-outs. Now we do see AltPig actually choosing to go for that 4th base, and with Shoodyo still on 1 base, only just picking up his 2nd now, he's going to be fairly behind in economy. As we go to the economy tab, we can see that AltPig is around 2,000 minerals, and Shoodyo is only around 600. Now AltPig is moving an Overlord into Scout. This is probably the 2nd time that Zerg has actually scouted since the start. Shoodyo probably hasn't scouted at all. And we do see that AltPig actually does see that this second expansion is coming up, so he can choose to be a bit aggressive here, trying to take out the 2nd expansion before Shoodyo is actually able to fortify it a bit. But we do see that Shoodyo is throwing up a missile turret for no apparent reason whatsoever. That's probably not the best of ideas, because Shoodyo's macro is actually slightly decent. He is able to keep his mineral count really low, but that missile turret wasn't really all that justified, especially since Shoodyo doesn't really know what kind of tech that AltPig is going. If we go to Shoodyo's vision, we can see that the only thing he can see is 2 hatches, and that's basically about it. He doesn't know what tech Zerg is going, he doesn't really know what's coming his way, but AltPig is getting his Spire up, he is getting his Hive tech up, he's getting melee attack, he's getting his +2 armor. We do see Shoodyo going for a couple of Thors. That may help slightly with the Zerglings, but if he's able to get a couple more siege tanks up, those will be able to be a bit more cost efficient to actually handle those units. Thors would generally only be useful against, well, the best situation for them would be against a handful of mutas, because the Thor's splash damage is able to take out groups of mutas basically in seconds. But for Shoodyo to be going against Thors against a Zergling Roach Baneling composition isn't really going to be all that cost effective, especially since the Zerg can basically run in a couple of Banelings, detonate it, take out the Marines, run the Roaches in, snipe out that Thor, and that's basically going to be the end of that push. Now we do see AltPig getting out a couple of Infestors, so like I said before, the Infestors are going to be really powerful against this many Marines, especially since they don't have any Medivac support whatsoever. The Fungal Growth DPS is really high in patch 1.3. Well, it's not really high, but it's actually a lot better than what it used to be. So he's going to be able to take out those Marines really quickly. He's going to be able to save those Banelings for the Siege Tanks or the Thors. Now we do see Shoodyo trying to poke around the 3rd, but we do see AltPig actually rallying all his units in, so we're probably going to see a really big confrontation in the middle. Shoodyo does siege up his Siege Tank, getting a couple of hits off before the battle actually starts. And we do see all the Banelings try to run in, taking out most of those Thors. We do see the Roaches sniping them out, probably going to look to snipe out the Siege Tanks as well. We do see the Banelings take out all those Marines, and basically that's going to be the end of that push. That many Roaches against that mech-based army isn't going to be really all that powerful, especially when they had the Baneling support to take out all those Marines. And Shoodyo does tap out with GG. My personal opinion on where that match was lost is probably the fact that Shoodyo didn't really choose to scout all that much. So if we go to Shoudyo's vision, we can see that even in the 2nd game, all he saw was that extractor, so you can assume that AltPig did take the gold. He only sees the main hatch and the natural hatch, and that's basically about it. He doesn't know what tech AltPig is going, he doesn't know how many bases he actually has, because AltPig did have that 4th base there. He did have the option to easily take up that 5th, especially since Shoodyo wasn't being all that aggressive, he wasn't really scouting all that much. If we look at Shoudyo's orbital command, he did have 102 energy. That could have been spent on a couple of scans, a couple of mules to actually get his economy up to match up to AltPig's 4 bases, but he chose to go for a couple of mules, didn't really focus on keeping that energy as low as possible. And we do see that Shoudyo did just have a massive SCVs hanging around, when he could have, actually no, that did seem fairly saturated, so he probably could have started up another orbital command, floated off somewhere else, try to get up a 3rd base, and that should have helped him get a large enough army to deal with AltPig's really scary Roach, Baneling, and Zergling composition. And that's basically about it. This is Crucius for USID and New South Wales StarSoc. This is my first time commentating for this channel, so hopefully you'll be seeing more of me in the future. And that's all from me from now, so I'll see you guys next time.